Port. Over to you, Jen.
Thank you. I love that on a 60-degree January day. That's what you chose to use, your word. So I am super excited to be here this morning and to welcome our speaker. But before I introduce Jose, just a couple things about what's coming up. We have a lot planned for 2026. And for those of you that are new here, I'm on the chapter's board as the director of, I forget what my title is, programming events or professional development, something like that. So basically, that means I plan these monthly meetings. And I don't do that alone. Cindy Robinson, who's also here, who's working on marketing for the chapter, but has been a partner with me in planning our 2026 program. So we have a lot in store. As we were just talking about, as some of you are coming in, our February meeting, excuse me, our February meeting will be in person. Go ahead, sorry. And it's local coach and MCC coach Annette Gersteck, and Annette is out of Hudson. And this information is all on the website, but we will be at Talent Launch, which is and they have a new location in Valley View, but all of that's on the website. She's going to talk about visibility to impact, elevating your coaching practice through thought leadership and in lasting impact, talking about how to use visibility tools to create impact in your coaching. And then so that's a Friday event. And then I think I've mentioned before this year, we're experimenting with different times and locations for meetings because we got a lot of feedback in all of the research and surveys that we've done over the last couple of years. So on Tuesday, March 10th, at noon, we are having Paul Sandbar, who uses Legos and playful approach in his coaching. And so that's going to be a virtual session, and there'll be more instructions about, and I think at the February meeting, if you're there, I may bring baggies of Legos to give out so people can experiment because I have boxes and boxes of Legos that my daughter doesn't want to use anymore. So I would love to find a good home for them. So that we're just waiting for the final info from Paul, but that should be on the website very soon. I know Cindy's working on getting that information from him. And then in April, we'll be back in person, and I'm still working on the exact location, but that will be with chapter member, and maybe some of you know her, Sarah Ismail Beji Bartlett, and she's going to be talking about listening. I went to a session with her at the Cleveland Leadership Center, their Spark event in August. Maybe some of you were there, and she did this great session on listening. And I just thought this is something that all of our Cleveland coaching colleagues should hear. So we're working on, she's finalizing her description this week, and we'll have that up on the website very soon, but that's on Friday, April 10th. And then we're working, Cindy and I are working on our May and June programs. Particularly in May, we're thinking about a collaboration with the other chapters in Ohio because it is International Coaching Week, the week that we typically have our programs. So we're working on potentially a collaborative program with the other chapters here in Ohio. So stay tuned for that. And then June's going to be something experimental and experiential. So stay tuned for those details. And if anyone has any other ideas, a lot of these ideas, Annette came to us from a chapter member, Cindy went to a workshop and saw Paul. If anyone that's been around for a while, or if you're new, if you have a speaker you've seen, you have something you want to present, we're always looking for more presenters. And as you can see from the schedule, we try to fluctuate between, local members of our community, as well as bringing people like Jose who are not here with us in Cleveland. So when I'm finished talking, I will put my email in the chat and maybe Cindy can do the same. So if you have any ideas, anything you want to talk about with the group, even if I think this is something that I'm really looking forward to, that we're looking for. You don't have to be, a world-renowned keynote speaker. You might just have something about coaching that you want to talk to your colleagues about. You want a workshop. This is a great community to do that in, and we're always looking for people. So please, let us know if you have ideas. So now I will turn us over to what we're here for this morning. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Jose Pereira. He's a former CEO of CITGO And especially given what's going on, this is a emotional week, I think, for him because he's a survivor of 5 years of wrongful imprisonment as part of the CITGO 6 in Venezuela. He's now an international speaker, an author, and an executive coach that focuses on helping leaders, C-suite leaders, leaders of all kinds, build resilience, lead with purpose, and thrive under pressure, which I think, I don't know about you, but it feels like we all we all need that these days. His journey from captivity to freedom fuels everything that he does. He tries to inspire and equip others to lead boldly through adversity and build resilience. And again, especially given all that's going on that we're seeing in the news about what's happening in Venezuela. I know it's been an emotional week for Jose, so I'm particularly grateful that he's here with us this morning. So with that, I will turn it over to Jose.
Thank you for having me here. This is a wonderful, wonderful group. Before we started, I was talking about this has been a really, really particular week for me because the people that is here today, my story being hosted happened 8 years ago in 2017 during the first Trump administration. And then that happened because there were been tension between Trump and Maduro. So for me, it was like a deja vu what was going on, and it was kind of the bizarre how this movie ended. So I was telling to Jen that when I begin to see that I seen this guy going to the court with the handcuff in the armored trucks was exactly what this guy did to us because we became the political pawns of the situation. And every time they send it to the court, it was they did a show. So the first time I went to the court, I felt like I was the Chapo Guzman. It was something ridiculous. And now I'm seeing this guy going through that is full karma. Really, is full karma. But well, that's not the intention of today's session because, as Jen mentioned, I decided to use what happened to me in a way that really can help others because there's a lesson behind all of that. And many people always ask me how I decided to do this because I could have gone quiet, coming back and going back to my life, and that's it. But for some reason of God, I begin to connect first with the hostage community here in the US. I'm very connected to that community. Here, I support foundations that work to bring American back to home. I'm very connected to many former hostages and their families. And there's where I begin to have this idea to become a coach because the people that doesn't know me, I did all my career was really in the oil and gas. I was an oil and gas guy since I graduated in 21 years. I started my career in Venezuela, in PDVSA, the national oil company of Venezuela, that by that time was the fifth biggest oil company of the world. So this guy destroyed that company, of course. And I was appointed to CITGO like 15 years ago. And so I didn't come like a normal immigrant here. I came like an expat assigned to that company. And after several years, I became the CEO of the company. So for me, it was a big deal becoming the president of the company here, the sixth biggest refinery complex of the U.S. with more than 6,000 gas stations. And there was a lesson for me really important in that moment because being immigrant, coming to a company here that is pure American, where I had more than 95% of the employees that were Americans, more than 6,000 employees. So there was a cultural barrier, but the way you can always overcome those cultural barriers is treating the people like they are human beings. So this is something that I always mention, that the starting point to any leadership is being human, the empathetic way to treat with people. So our session today is going to be mentioned unbreakable leadership, building resilience in this stressful world. Because as Jen said, this is a stressful world. there are a lot of things going in the world, and I cannot imagine that the leaders of these big companies, how they have to deal with the situation today, because the things are changing almost on a daily basis. You turn the TV in the morning, and the breaking news are all over the place always, and not only from the economical side, the political side. There are a lot of things going in the world today. So let's go to the first slide, Jen. So this conversation really matters because, as Jen mentioned, this is something that is really very well needed, because one of the most problematic things in any leadership is exactly the stress of the unknown, that you don't know what's going to happen. So when you have that situation, it creates a stressful situation. It drives to anxiety. It drives to, a lot of emotions. And a leader really has to have the ability to control that, because you're in the top. So if you don't control that, that's going to go all over your organization. So this conversation matters because leaders are always will be under pressure. So this is part of the nature of being a leader. You always will be under pressure. But there always will be uncertainty. It can drive to burnout, because if you don't take care of the situation, it will, at the end, will drive to burn out, because the uncertainty, the unknown, and things that are not under your control will give you fatigue, and there's where it comes that resilience is not an option, it's a need. So you really need to build resilience. So we're gonna go here through things that I used during my career and things that I used during my survivor time, because there is something here that I want to mention, that I did more than 30 years career in the oil and gas. That the oil and gas is a very stressful organization, because normally you have events that typically you have to be prepared for them. A blow up in a refinery, or a blow up in a drilling rig, or many things can happen in the oil and gas, and typically you get trained for that. You get a lot of training on risk management and damage control, etc., etc. But believe me, nobody's prepared for a catastrophic event in your life. Nobody's prepared. When the adversity comes, you are not prepared, because that's exactly what happened to me. Let me go a little bit back to elaborate my presentation, because, as I said, in 2017, there was having all this tension between Trump and Maduro. And I was here working to CITGO Petroleum, that is a company that belongs to PDVSA, that is the national oil company of Venezuela. So for me, when there was even the CITGO is American company, there was a tie. There was a tie. So all these political thing that was going at that moment, that I never imagined they will unfold how it finished. But I decided to get retired at that time. I talked with my wife and said to her, oh, I have more than 35 years here. I'm done with this. I'm not. So I was prepared to get retired, and I was in my retirement mode. I received a phone call to go to make a presentation to Venezuela, and it was in ambush. So I flew with my 5 vice presidents, and it became to be an ambush, because we were caught in the middle of the situation, and we were accused to be American spy. Imagine, picture this, in a communist regime, accused to be American spy. So the first reaction is that you don't believe it, because that's what happened when anything comes to your life. You will not believe it. You will not accept it. Nobody's prepared to an event like this. And this is something that today I tell to any leader, because you are running a business, and can happen situations in the company, how you are going to handle that. So there's where comes the real leadership, because when everything is normal, anybody can be a leader in a normal situation. You have a lot of tools, but when things come, and believe me, today world, the things are coming, are coming and coming almost on a daily basis. So there are things that a leader has to develop. So here comes that people can say, I will not survive a situation like that. And my answer is, yes, you will. Yes, you will. Because one thing that today I'm very clear is that everybody has inside that unbreakable spirit, that because we are creature of God, we are made at his image. So we have that force inside. Everybody has it. So that debate that if a leader is born or not, the leader is inside you. You have it within. And maybe when situation comes, is where you will reveal the real nature. Because that's what happened to us. People ask me always how you survive, because I stayed 5 years. And we stayed 5 years with a lot of situations. By the way, yesterday they were released the political prisoner. I was seeing the TV, and all those people were with me. Most of these guys had years, much more years than me, because I came back 3 years ago. This guy was released yesterday. So for me, it was 5 years. But I know people that stayed a lot of time. And here in the US, because I was connected to those two groups, the Venezuelan political prisoners and the American wrongfully detained. So I'm connected to these two communities. And here in the US, the hostage community, there are a lot of resilience, not only in the families and the hostage, people that have stayed years. So how the people do that? Because again, the human nature has that inner force that sometimes you can make it, or maybe you cannot make it, because everything is here. Everything is here. It's a matter of mindset. So that's why this conversation is important. Go to the second slide, please. So talking about the unbreakable leadership, as I mentioned, everybody has that force inside. And the importance of this is that when something happens, there's always a moment that you will deny it. That's the first reaction. That is human nature. You will say, this is not happening to me. And this is something that you don't have to go to a situation I went, but you can go to any situation in your life, in your business or in your personal life. When the thing happened, the first reaction is, this is not happening to me. Something that went wrong in your business, or went wrong in your family, or went wrong in your life. This is not happening to me. That's the first reaction. And there comes the reality that you say, okay, this is real, this is happening. That point from the denial and the acceptance, it could take one day, it can take 1 week, it can take 1 month, it can take 1 year, or it can take forever. So how you will accept it, this is only in you. This is only in you. And this is something that when I talk with people that have gone through situations, my first reaction is, how you want to handle the situation? What is your opinion of this situation? Because another thing that I many of these things that I'm talking, I learned it in the hard way. Because when I was in my captivity, I had to do things that even I had experience being a leader in organization. This was a different animal. This was a different animal, because now I'm in a prison with all the political prisoners of Venezuela. And believe me, these guys were not normal prisoners. There were high stake people high-stake people. I'm talking about generals. I'm talking about political leaders. I'm talking about journalists, people that I used to see in the TV. Now were my comrades there. But you know what was the thing that connected us? That all of us were going to the same situation. All of us were going to the same ordeal. And now there you learn to know the people as people, normal people going to the same ordeal. No suits, no nothing. People trying to survive. And there's where it comes the point that I mirror in your business. When you're in a business, and the way you are going to connect with the people is exactly the same way. Because one of the biggest mistakes the leader do in an organization is when it goes to the top, it creates a shield. It creates a shield, and you got that disconnection with your people, your employee, whatever. You have to connect with the people, because when anything is going in your business, you're not alone. The people are there. But if you don't connect with them, many of the solutions that you will need maybe will not come from you, will come from there. But if you don't have that connection, how you're going to make the solution? And this is something that unfortunately happens very frequently, that the person that are in leadership position disconnect with their employee, disconnect even of the reality, because the only way you can know really how your organization is going is talking with the people. That you will have the pulse, how the organization is really going, because this is another of the biggest mistake a leader do, that they connect only with their management team. So everybody is only talking with the management team. So you don't talk with no more people, and then you only are hearing what these guys are saying to you. And this is also a mistake. So I always recommend the person that are in this leadership position that try to, they don't have to bypass, but they have to use technique how to connect with them. In example, I'm gonna put an example here. When I was in CITGO, I am having always a early bird. So I woke very early in the morning, and I went to the building here in Houston. I'm Houston located, and I did a walk in all the buildings. I walk around, I knock doors, I went and talk to the people, how you're feeling. And the people, when they see you doing that, and of course, you would not know the name of 6,000 people, but you can relate with the people. And we did also something that we did on a monthly basis. I talk with the people of PR to bring me the employee of the month, and then we had a dinner with him, and we had the opportunity to have a conversation with him. So the people really appreciate that, because you begin to connect with the people that way. So talking about the unbreakable leadership is anchored in a purpose, and this is very important. One of also the biggest mistake that people do in their life is they don't make the question if they really are walking in their purpose. Because there are people that start a business sometimes only because they want to make money. They don't make the question if that is really their calling, is that really their passion? Because when you are doing something that you really love, you will find your purpose, and you will do it great. For example, there are a lot of coaches here. My question to you is, are you coaching because it's what you learn to do, or really this is your passion? So leadership is anchored in the purpose, because when you are walking in your purpose, you're going to be a great leader. That is a great correlation there. But also has to do with the emotional and the mental resilience. And this is very key, because many people said, but I don't know how to handle this. Today, there are a lot of studies done by the neuroscience that you can retrain your brain. There are a lot of talking about that. You can retrain your brain, because the brain has plasticity. So you can retrain and refrain your brain using emotional and mental resilience. And you can, that will make you more consistently more strong under pressure. Because this is like a training. The brain is like a muscle. It's like when you begin to do training to a marathon. It's the same thing. You can retrain your brain. Go to the next slide, please. So if you don't do that, this will have a cost. If you as a leader don't treat your leadership in the proper way, that will drive you to burnout. That will drive you to make reactive decisions, and that will lose, unfortunately, the trust of the people in you. Let me tell you something. One of the biggest mistake that the leaders do in our organization is that you need to identify in any situation the things that you can control and the things that you cannot control. For example, I'm going to put this example. When we were in captivity, we were 6 top executives because I was the president and the other 5 guys were my 5 vice presidents. All of us 30 plus year experience. So there was a lot of brains there. So the first year I stayed 1 year in solitary confinement. 1 year. 1 year by myself. Believe me, I had a lot of time to think. I have a lot of time to think and revisit my life and see even the things that I did wrong in my life. And one of the things that unfortunately is something that happened today very frequent, that the people want to climb the corporate ladder. It's very typical. Everybody wants to be successful. But when you're doing that, you lose the proper relation between your success and your personal life. And that was something that happened to me. I got disconnected to my family. I never had time to my wife. My daughter at some point, she said, hey, you have to give me a photo to put it in my room because I never see you. I never had time. When my wife called me, I never had time for her. Never. Oh, I'm busy. Sorry, I'm in a board meeting. I don't have time. And now and there, in a prison, begging for a 1 minute call to talk with my wife. So you have time to think on that. And today, this is something that I tell the people. You need to have a proper balance between your life and your business. And this is a recommendation, a strong recommendation that I give to anybody. And you, as a coach, you have to put that in your practice. The people that you coach, the question that you have to make them, how is the balance in your life? This is a key question in the person. What is the balance? How you do the balance between your job and your personal life? Because unfortunately, I know a lot of cases that people that are very successful in their business, but they're miserable in their personal life. So the question to you is that being successful? That when you go home, you don't have a family, your family is broken. So this is something that's very important. So going back to the fragility, the leadership, because sometimes you want to have control of everything. And when we were in our captivity, we were a lot of brains trying to solve the situation. So after 1 year being alone, we were put together after 1 year, the 6 of us. We were not friends. The first thing, we were not friends. We were colleagues, but not friends. I didn't know the life of these guys, no clue. And then now we discovered, and this is something I always say that this is something that was done by God, because we were 6 guys choosing randomly 30 plus year marriage each. By that time I had 31 year married. There was one that had 36, the other 37, the other had 32. All of us had 30 plus year experience career and 30 plus year married. So there were a lot of commonalities there. And then we decided, okay, we have family waiting for us. And there comes the boom, because now you have a reason to survive. And this is something that mirrors when you're in your personal life. You can be climbing the corporate ladder or climbing your business. But if you have the connection with your family, there is where you really are going to be successful, because now you have the fulfillment that you are doing great in your business and you're doing great in your life. So now we're the 6 guys thinking that we needed to survive to come back to our family. But we did begin to do the first mistake. We wanted to control everything because we had a lot of brains. Believe me, the first times I was going crazy. To take a decision was like being in a board meeting. Everybody wanted to do opinion and we wanted to control everything. And now we were trying to influence our families, what they would have to do to bring us back in a prison cell. That is ridiculous. So I'm going to say you here that when you're in a leadership position, you need to identify the things that you can control and the things that you cannot control. And that is key. Why? Because when you identify those 2 things, you concentrate your effort in the things that you can control. And the things that you cannot control a period. You monitor them, but you don't do nothing to control that, because that drives to anxiety and drives to depression, and you will never do nothing. So in our case, when we discovered, and we finally discovered, that we begin to get exhausted trying to influence our family, one day we said, you know what? We're going to leave our family to do what they had to do, and let's take care of ourselves. And there's where the thing begin to change for us, because now we concentrate our effort in taking care of ourselves. And we stop the debate that trying to influence and do like a board meeting every day. And we decided, okay, let's do something. Let's use each expertise of the people in the team. For example, one of my colleagues, he used to be a marathon runner. So he ran marathon. Well, he began to take care of the training of the group. We created a physical training session every day. There was a guy that he used to be the VP of PR. He took care of the communications. There was a guy that he praised Buddhism. He was taking care of meditation sessions. We have a friend that he was kind of a priest. He began to take care of carry on the biblical studies and the praying sessions. There was a guy that he was a expert in tanks, and we didn't have running water. So we have a tank, and he took care of how we could survive that tank that we didn't keep without water. And he took that for the next year. So when we created that plan, and I was like a kind of the coordinator, I didn't want to be seen like the CEO of the group, because now we were 6 guys at the same situation. But I tried to maintain the coordination, that the people have mental sanity, and trying to have the situation that didn't go off control. And believe me, during years we stayed together, and we managed to do this. And when we begin to do this, the days begin to go so fast, because now we created a routine. We created a routine, and the days begin to go so fast. And in the night, as I said, we begin to pray, and we begin to read the Bible. And this is something that today I tell to any leader. One of the biggest mistakes that leaders do is they disconnect of the spirituality. No matter what religion you praise, but you need to have a connection to your spirituality, because that's what will keep you. grounded. So let's go to the other slide. So, well, I don't want to ask about talk about my journey because I have been talking extensively about that. Let's go to the other. So this is a reflection because resilience you can build it. As I said, you can retrain your brain. You can read, but everything is here and everything is intentionally. So you have to take the decision. The moment you decide to take the decision, if you're going under pressure and you say, okay, this is happening, this is real, let's see how I'm gonna deal with this. So there are several things that you have to do. The first thing is accept that it's happening. Accept that the situation is happening. Analyze the things that you can control and the things that you cannot control. Even if you're going to a situation that you believe that you cannot handle, never lose the positivity. Because that is something that for us was key. That even we were going to that dark moment, we never lose the positivity. We always were thinking in the positive way. And I remember, it's funny because when we were released, I came back to a prisoner swap, okay? So by the way, the prisoner swap of the two nephews of Maduro. So when we were released, we landed in a military base here in San Antonio, Texas. And we stayed 10 days there in a decompression program, to decompression program. That the one that they do for the prisoner of
I am
war.
Sunita. How are you? Morning. Morning. Good.
Somebody there? Okay. So when we finished the program, I remember that the captain that was handling the program, he asked us to put the six together and try to do like a summary of the event we went through, to have like a recap. And we were beginning to try to create like the narrative of in a short summary, the event we went through during 5 years. And when we were revisiting the event, we were joking because these guys were so evil that we were laughing how we survived that. So we really begin to laugh about the things that we went through. And when we were talking with this guy, we were laughing. And the captain was like, what's going on with these guys? And we said, because the only way we could survive this, because we took it positive. Even we were going to a dark moment, we really try to manage in a positive way. And this is something that you can mirror in any situation in your life. Even if you're in a situation that you think that is terrible for you, never lose the positivity, because that's gonna keep your mindset. And there are many things that you can do, because one of the other things that for me has been a process for me, okay? Because I'm not an expert, but I have learned through my journey. After I came back, we were, because as I mentioned in the beginning, I'm connected to this Hostage Foundation. There is a foundation called the Hostage US. That today I have very good ties with them. They appointed me with a therapist, and I went to a big trauma recovery center that is in North Carolina called Wake Medical Center. So when I went to the Wake Medical Center, they do something they call the medical marathon. So that we stay 2 weeks with a full psychological, physical, and spiritual healing process. And the director of that center, his name is Brian Klosner. We became friends. We really became good friends, at the point that when I wrote my book, this is my book, he did the prologue of the book. If you see this book, what I'm gonna try to put it here. Okay. What you see here, this is the dungeon where we were. What you see in the back, that was the dungeon. And these were the guards. They used this mask. we were not allowed to see this guy to the face. Okay, so if you had needed to talk with this guy, you had to turn your face down, no eye contact. Okay, so when I was talking with Brian, I remember that he mentioned that he was surprised with our story because we did something that they, as a specialist, expert in trauma, they study, and we did it only for common sense, because that's what is that human nature, that you do things because humans are prepared, because you have that force, you have it inside, and what you have to do is unleash it. And how you do it? Connected with your spirituality, because God is who's gonna guide you. Believe me, He will guide you. He guides us. We begin to do things that we didn't know why we were doing it, but we were doing it. And now I in this trauma recovery center, knowing that those are techniques that they teach how to survive. But we were not expert on that. We did it only because of common sense and surviving mode. So, but you can review your resilience doing daily practices. Things simple. For example, during my years of captivity, we did something that it looks ridiculous. The people think that it's ridiculous, but for us was a ritual, the breakfast, the morning breakfast. Because we were 6 guys in a confined space with a table with a chair. So we took the breakfast. The other 5 guys were in the bed, and the guy that was taking the breakfast was sitting down alone in the peace and the solace of the moment. That became a ritual for us. That simple thing made us the beginning of the day in peace. This is something that I recommend to the person. Morning journaling, walking your dog, taking a cup of coffee, taking that moment by yourself and take it expressing gratitude. Because this is something that unfortunately the person today don't have time. Everything is so fast, we don't have time for nothing. And that simple practice, that simple ritual, it will change your mode during the rest of the day. Morning prayers. So all those rituals in the morning will change your day. Will change your day. And the faith, my friends. I don't know if you're a person of faith, but the faith is what will make you go to any situation in life. I'm here because I begin to have faith in God. For me, was my anchor. When I really begin to see that the situation we were going, God was taking care of ourselves, and we begin to deeply go in the Bible and see how this guy endured in the Bible, all these things, and we were going through that same situation. We begin to say, okay, God, we are in your hands. And there's where the things also change. That can happen in your life, and that can happen in your business. So have faith in yourself and faith in God. The next one. And as I mentioned, neuroscience, it's funny because the pastor of my church, he always mentioned that neuroscience has confirmed what the Bible said 2,000 years ago. Today, everything that neuroscience is discovering is exactly what the Bible says. And the faith is that. The faith is that because as you can retrain your brain, when you begin to have practices, how to retrain your thoughts, your thought can change your reality. The person that is observing something can change what is observed. And this is documented. You can change your reality. And that is what is faith. That is exactly what is the faith. So when you begin to have that morning practices, you begin to retrain what you read. You begin to believe what you haven't seen yet. So you're not looking what you are looking today. You're begin to see what you haven't seen yet. I'm gonna say something here, for example. After 4 years being us in captivity, one day they opened the door and they said, dress up that you're gonna have a visit. They put us in a room and became a tall guy that came and he introduced himself. It was the Ambassador Roger Carson, that he was running the special presidential office for hosted affairs. And he visited us and he said, I'm here because we're going to have the first direct face-to-face negotiation for your release. When I saw that guy, I said, we're gone. So when he finished the meeting, that he was, unfolding what was going on, I told him, Ambassador, we are gone. I don't know when, but we are gone. And the day after, they gave me a call to talk with my wife because they wanted to give the impression that things were going okay. And they gave the call to I could talk with my wife because they wanted to put pressure in the government, the US government. So I called my wife and I told her, well, we had this negotiation, this visit, and they're negotiating, and mommy, I'm gone. I'm gone. So I'm gonna ask you to please tell Edgar. Edgar was the guy taking care of my logistics. Tell Edgar to bring me a carry-on. And she asked me, why? Well, because I want to be prepared when I'm gonna go. So I was thinking that I was gonna go. And I asked her to bring me the carry-on with clothes for at least 1 week. She told me that when I came back, that she thought that I was going crazy. Why this guy asking for that? So she brought me that weekend the carry-on. And I put the carry-on in the corner of my cell, beside my bed. Every morning that I woke up, I talked to the carry-on. I told the carry-on, be ready because we're going to go. Every morning. And I kept doing it during 1 year. 1 year. It took me 1 year. But that became my anchor. I was really, really convinced that I was going to come back. And this is what you have to do in your life. Believe what you haven't seen. I don't know if it will take 1 day, 2 days, 1 week, 1 year, but it will happen. It will happen. So it took 1 year. One year after, one day they opened the door and they said us, dress up that you're free. So for me, there's a metaphor behind this because in the life, the people always try to carry a heavy luggage in their shoulder. You're in your life carrying a heavy luggage in your shoulder. And there's where you have to give that to God. But that carry on, that became my dreams. So this is your dreams. So that's where you have to carry your dreams. So I'm here to say that anything that you are going in your life, pursue your dreams. Pursue it, and think that it's going to happen. But you have to have faith in that. Because if not, unfortunately, it will drive you to anxiety, to depression, and will be the stressful situation. And this is something that, unfortunately, typical is what the leader do. And when you become to go as a leader in a stressful situation, it hijacks your decision making. You're going to begin to take wrong decisions. And the sense that you're going to give to your team is that you don't having control. You're going to lose the trust of the employees. And there's where comes that anything that you're going as a leader, even in your life or in your business, never do things alone. This is another mistake that people do things alone. You have a team, you have a family, work with them. Sometimes you don't have the answer, but believe me, when you have a good relation with your team, maybe the answer, somebody has it there. But if you don't make the question, you will never know if the answer is there. So this is very important. Go to the next one. So there are like 4 pillars in all this process. The first pillar is your mental health. One of the things that when we decided to be this, when we said, okay, we cannot influence, we cannot control what's going on outside because we don't have no way to influence that. We left that to our family, and they did a great job. Let me tell you, our family, and the other 5 families, they got connected to more, around 20 more families that were having the same situation in other countries. People that were in Iran, in China, in Russia, Afghanistan, Syria, Cuba, a lot of countries. Same situation than us, but in other countries, because this, unfortunately, for the people that doesn't know, this is a phenomenon called the hostage diplomacy. So people, they are taking, not because we are politicians, you're a normal guy, I was a business guy, and they take it because they see you like a high stake, and they use you as a pawn to leverage the relation with the other country. So this is a practice. This is like a business model. And when our family met the other family, they created a foundation called the Bring Our Family Home Campaign. The Bring Our Family Home Campaign today is still active and is taking care of hosted all over the world. But they begin to do a lot of job to get us released. So they did a lot of pressure in the press, a lot of pressure in the Congress, a lot of pressure in the government, and that's why we could come back. So we took care of ourselves. And one of the things that was important was taking care of the mental health. So we begin to do, as I mentioned, we begin to do training, meditation, biblical studies. We begin to play domino. We did domino tournament because we try to have fun. So we begin to play domino, and we stayed. It was fun playing domino. We begin to read, and I begin to, because by that time I was authorized to begin to receive food from my family because the food of them there was terrible. In fact, was not terrible. Sometimes there was no food. I had lost 100 pounds by that time. So we were literally starving. So they allowed us, our family, to bring us food. And my eldest son, he moved to Colombia. And from Colombia, he began to provide food. And somebody picked up this Edgar, the guy that took care, his wife cooked, and he delivered the food 3 days in the week. And when I was returning the trash cans, I began to write letters and smuggle inside the cans. And my wife compiled those letters, and that's my book. This book is based on those letters. And for us, reading, writing, exercising, meditating, reading the Bible became our mental resilience. So because now we were reframing the situation that we were going, we were controlling our internal dialogue, because this is your sabotage. If you don't control your internal dialogue, oh, I'm not good enough, I cannot do this, oh, I'm not good for this, oh, this is not going to happen. When you are in that frame is where the thing will not happen. And practicing clarity under pressure. This is very important. Something that I always mention, you have to, any situation, be calm and focus. Calm and focus. This is key in any situation. And a leader that can control that, be calm and focus, are the leaders that will find the clarity. Because when you are calm and focused, you can see things that may be in front of you, the solution, or maybe you will find the path to the solution. But if you don't have that focusedness, is that you will not have the clarity. Go to the second one. The emotional resilience. This is very important, the emotional intelligence. Everybody talks about the emotional intelligence, but emotional intelligence is, for me, is like the secret sauce. A leader that has emotional intelligence is the leader that's going to be successful, because this is the guy that's going to be empathetic with their employee. As I mentioned in the beginning, You connect with the people being people. During my career, in my corporate career, I had the fortune that I always work in the international side of the business. So I work with a lot of cultures. I work with Chinese, with Japanese, with Italian, with French, Americans, British, Indians. So a lot of cultures. Malaysians, a lot of cultures. But the way we connected always was being people. Because dealing with them, there are religion barriers, cultural barriers, ethnic barriers, a lot of barriers. But when you connect with them, being people, is where you will connect. I today still have a WhatsApp group with a Japanese that I worked with them 30 years ago. And now we are all retired with grandsons and we're friends 30 years. And we have a WhatsApp group because we became like family. So emotional intelligence is important because it will regulate your emotions, will generate empathy. And the empathy is something that empathy doesn't mean that you need to accept what the other is thinking, but at least you will recognize and will acknowledge, and you will put in the shoes of them, and you will handle, because this is something that is another of the big mistakes that leaders do, because they don't connect with the people, they don't have the empathy with the people. Maybe you can have a good manager in your team, but he's going through things in life. Life happens. People have problems. And then if you don't know how to handle that, you can take a wrong decision with a person. And that generates loyalty. That is something but that's why I say that is like the secret sauce, because there's where you will find loyalty in the people when you're empathetic with them. Go to the next one. The physical resilience, because it's not only the mental health, it's the physical health. As I mentioned, we were during those years, we had this guy that he was a marathon runner, and he began to train us. And it was funny because I was calling my wife. I never in my life had done push-up, and now I'm here doing push-up and doing static running and a lot of things that in my normal life I have never done that. And now I'm here doing, and believe me, we stay like 3 hours per day doing exercises. We begin to get very well trained. So that boosts your energy, improves your sleeping, you everything. And we did it in a confined space. So if you mirror that in your life, doing morning walking, going to the gym, doing swimming. In my case, when I came back, that I was having some PTSD events. And the way I could handle through my therapist, she told me to begin to swim in the night. So I began to go to the pool in the night to swim. And I began to swim with the old Jose that was in the prison. And I took him and I let him go. So I began to swim, letting the old Jose, and begin to swim and stay swimming, and believe me, it helped. It helped. And when you are doing physical exercise by yourself, you can do it in the morning or you can do it after your day of work. That will help with your stamina. It will help in all the process. You will have time to reflect what happened, because you begin the day with your morning gratitude with yourself, with your morning prayer, and you can finalize with your evening exercise, and you will close a day. You can reflect what happened in the day, and you create that routine. Your life will change. You're gonna be retraining what you're doing in your life. Go to the the next one. And as I mentioned, this is something that the people are missing, the spiritual side. The spiritual side. I could not have made my way back if I hadn't connected with the spiritual side. The spiritual side is what's going to align to your purpose, is what's going to make that anything that you're going, you know that you're in the hands of God, that whatever is going on in your life, there is going to be a better future for you. So that will change the total mindset. For me, it's a blessing. Today, I'm very connected to my church. I do church service. I'm starting a nonprofit called Angels Helping Earth to help here in the Houston area, Hispanic community for trauma recovery. Because I found that this is something that is part of the calling that God gave to me. And the spiritual side is, as I mentioned, is what will keep you grounded. Will ground you, and will make you grow spiritual, and that will enhance your leadership. I'm not telling the person that you have to praise a religion in particular, but if you're a person that believes in God or believe in Jesus, and you're in a leadership position, use that is your ministry. Use it like that is your ministry. Profess what you say and what you do. So what you say has to be the same thing what you do. So if you have to treat the people properly, you can say it, but you have to do it. So because leadership is beyond the title, and I can tell you something. I learned that in the hard way. As I mentioned, I was with all the political prisoners of Venezuela, high-stake people. Yesterday, when I was looking, they were releasing this guy. I was so happy because this guy became my friend. People that I used to see in the TV because they were ministers or politicians or journalists, whatever. And now they're with me. They're having the same situation because there was no suit. We were human beings trying to survive. And you know, the people in the real people, not the face, is the real people. When you connect with the spirituality, as I mentioned, that will drive to your purpose. I have an episode that happened to me when I was in my captivity that at some point we have the opportunity to begin to read books. So they allow us to have books. And with me was a general, a high-ranked general. By the way, yesterday somebody told me that he's going to be the next Minister of Defense. Here's the Minister of War. He's going to be the Minister of War of Venezuela. His name is Rodriguez Torres. We were colleagues. We were always talking. And because he was a high-ranked general, he was allowed to have a lot of books. So his family brought him a lot of books. One day he told me, "Hey, Jose, I have this book. You have to read this book." And when I saw the book, I saw the title, "Men in a Search of a Meaning," Viktor Frankl. I don't know if you have read that book. Men in a Search of a Meaning, Viktor Frankl. I had the opportunity to read it there. When I began to read that book, when that guy telling me that you had to find your purpose, that when that he found that the people that survived the ordeal of the concentration camp was those who had a purpose. That guy would begin to talk. It was God talking to me. So for me today is that one of the key things in anyone that is going to any situation or want to become a good leader is finding your purpose. Make your question. Are you walking in your purpose? If the answer is no, maybe it's time that you have to switch and pivot what you're doing. Do what you want to do, because there are people that maybe they're doing something, but they want to be a singer or want to be a musician, whatever. This guy, that he was the marathon runner, I learned that when he was young, he wanted to be he was a very good guitar player, and he wanted to be in a rock band. And he told me, Jose, when I go out, I'm gonna make me a tattoo. And now he did his tattoo. It was funny because he did his tattoo when it was 65. and but align with your purpose. Align. So you have to align with your mental health, your emotional health, your physical health, and your spiritual health. If you go through these four pillars, my friends, you're gonna be a successful leader. So go to the next one. And well, this is here is the question: the stress versus the pressure, because you as leader always will have pressure, always, because that's what leaders have to face situation. A good leader is that leader that can be something that for me also is very key: adaptable. The leader that had the capacity to be adaptable of the situation is the leader that's going to be successful, and will know how to handle the pressure. It can be sometimes stressful. So the stress is not bad. Sometimes the stress is necessary to boost your awareness, but you have to manage the stress, but you can handle the pressure. So because the pressure is external, and sometimes you will not have the possibility to control, but you can manage it. You can manage it. You can know how to respond, and then you can lead managing the way you respond. So it's different the way you approach it. Go to the next one. And well, there are moments when there's some stressful situation. I heard somebody talking about the pause and the breath. So important to take a pause and take a breath. So important. Sometimes you need to make a pause, and sometimes you when you feel that you see that you are overwhelmed, take a pause. Take a pause. Do a step back. Take a pause. That will help you recenter your purpose. And now you have the ability to respond intentionally. So you can know how to respond, but you need to pause and breathe. Today there are several techniques how to breathe. So this is something, again, all of these things, the good things that today everything can be retrained. I'm that way, I cannot change, this is my nature, that's not true. You can retrain yourself. And part of that is taking pause and taking a breath. Go to the next one. And my friend, a leader always will be under fire. That is inevitable. So you always will be under fire, always. And today world always will be under fire, because the world, as I begin the presentation, is crazy. The things that are going in the world. You cannot influence what's going in the world, but you can influence the way you handle them, the way you evaluate them, the way you react to them, and you go with clarity over the urgency. So sometimes you have to slow down and evaluate the situation and value the decision that you're going to be making, because that will make the change. In you're leading an organization, you will take better decisions if you do it that way. Go to the next one. We're coming to the end. So when you do that, you're going to be leading others without the stress. If you don't take care of yourself as a leader, unfortunately, that is going to go all over your organization. So having clear communication, having presence over the perfection, this is something key to. Sometimes the people try to do perfect. Sometimes it's better the present than the perfection. You need to try to do the best. But sometimes when you want to do things perfect, the thing never happens because the perfection never comes. So think of that too. Next one. And everything that I have been talking at, the ultimate goal is that you're going to create resilient teams. So when you do all what I have been talking today, and again, what I'm talking today, believe me, I walked through that during my survivor time. So it worked because I'm here. It worked because I'm here. So it's not because I read it. I lived it. So when you create those resilient teams, this is where you're going to create strong organizations, because now it's not only you be a strong leader, you're going to have a strong team. So coming to the end, I'm almost finishing. Go to the next one. So I cannot stress more that the faith, the spirituality is important. The faith. You have to trust yourself. You have to trust God or whatever you believe. But it's important that you have faith in what you're doing and faith in your future. So walk in your calling, walk in your purpose, and pursue your dreams. And no matter what you're going, never give up. Never give up. That's my final recommendation to this group. And well, thank you for having me. And survivor to strength. That's what exactly happened to me. We could survive those 5 years of captivity. When I came back, by the way, today, this afternoon, I'm going to do an interview with Fox, with a journalist. Her name is Brooke Taylor. She was the first person to interview me when I came back. And she called me yesterday, and she wanted to do an interview because the situation that's happening in Venezuela. But was funny because, as I mentioned, we landed in a military base in San Antonio, and we stayed 10 days there. And after 10 days, my wife, she was with me, and we were driving from San Antonio to Houston. It's a 3-hour driving. And my wife gave me my first phone in 5 years. 5 years. I didn't remember how to use a phone. And she gave me the phone, and the phone began to ring. Who's calling me? I answered. It was this lady. And I asked her, how you got this phone? No, I talked with your son, and your son gave me your number. Okay. Mr. Pereira, will you give me the interview of what you went through? I had one day coming to my house, and I told him, well, yeah, okay, why not? And she interviewed me the day after. So, but I didn't want to do it in my house because I was overwhelmed. My wife had by that time she closed the store, but she had a French macaron store here in Houston. So I told her, okay, let's do the interview in the store of my wife. And my wife, she used to open the store at 10 a.m. in the morning. So I told her, let's start at 8 a.m. so we can do the interview. And this lady came with cameras, lights, all this stuff, and they put there, and we recorded the interview. And when it comes around 10, my wife said, Papi, I have to open the store. And open the store. So that the clients begin to in to the store, and they saw the cameras, all the stuff, and they asked my wife, what's happening here? No, my husband, he was released. She kept 5 years opening the store without telling the people that I was kidnapped. And I told her, why you never said nothing to nobody? Because that was my thing. She kept 5 years without saying that she had her husband kidnapped. Don't do that. You don't do things alone. When you're having any situation in life, look for help. Look your circle of support. Always look for somebody to help, because she had that time suffering alone. I could not imagine what happened with her. But well, when I was finishing the interview with Brooke, I remember that she made me the question, because I saw the interview some days ago, and she said, Mr. Pereira, what is your next move? And I remember that I got like I didn't know what to do. No clue. 5 years I was coming like in a time machine. And I said, I don't know, but maybe I'm gonna open a Twitter account and I'm gonna begin to tweet. And that's what I did, by the way. I opened the Twitter account and I began to interact with the people. And then I opened my Facebook, and then I opened the LinkedIn, and I opened this and that. Today I have 200,000 followers, and my YouTube channel have 25,000 followers, and I have today a podcast, and I'm a TV host. Today I have my own TV program, something that I never thought I could be doing. But that's what God does. He begins to drive you. And I have my coaching practice. I begin to uh, uh, do conference. I wrote this book, but I also wrote another book called Unbreakable. These are leadership principles based on biblical principles, because everything is in the Bible, my friend. If you need an answer, the Bible will have the answer. So well, Jen, thank you for having me. I don't know if you want to have some sessions of Q&As.
Yeah, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, there's so many ideas that are bubbling in my head. I wrote in the chat when we asked what we were looking forward to. I think some of my colleagues here know I just wrote a book on leadership in nonprofits, and there's a chapter on resilience. And now I'm like, oh, I need to go back to my resilience chapter and make some amendments. So lots of great ideas. So thank you for that. But while you were talking, some questions came in the chat. So Brian, I'm going to start with yours. Do you want to ask your question rather than me read it? I know you had a question about this kind of the leadership, resilience leadership. How do we identify that?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jen. Jose, that was amazing. Bless you for sharing your story and especially the personal side of that. I think all of us could kind of, walk with you a little bit in that amazing story that you shared. But what I was curious about is when I've got a client, a leadership individual, is there what do you suggest in me determining how resilient, or you had the the unbroken or the unbreakable versus the fragile? Like, how do I determine that when I'm talking to my client?
Well, because the everything is starting in believing in yourself. Everything starts in believing in yourself. Sometimes the people, and I as I mentioned, people sometimes think they're fragile, and then, and for example, many people have said to me, could not survive what you went through, and I tell to them, you will do it. If you have to go through it, you will do it, because that's what the, the, the human being can do things beyond what you can imagine. Believe me, beyond. Because that's what the human nature is. And that's why you see stories of people that do think that you say, how that guy did it. Because when you are in that moment, that you have to take a decision, or I survive or I die. So this is something that you can mirror in your business. I want to be successful or I want to broke. So it's in you. It has to be in you. It's matter of mindset. It's changing your mindset. And again, there are people say, no, but I don't have that capacity. You have it, because you can refrain, you can retrain your brain. But it starts to the people believing in themselves. If the person doesn't believe in themselves, my friend, there's nothing to do.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and Brian, I was thinking the same thing around the kinds of questions I might ask to kind of gauge where someone is in terms of that, right? Because you're not going to say, "Are you fragile or are you unbreakable?" Right? Some unbreakable, right? Even though they might not be. I was thinking of questions around like how do they handle stressful situations? Kind of cluing into trying to get some clues into where they might be, which leads to the next it's not so much a question but a comment. I hope Allison, you don't mind. Allison Arkin made a comment around that what you were talking about, Jose, is connected to the kind of resilience coaching and teaching work that she does. So Allison, I wonder if you don't mind chiming in.
Absolutely. And Anetha on the call, we teach a full day program in our leadership development practice. And of course, all coaches help our clients be resilient. And the practices, albeit a very different setting with respect, the practices are the same: emotional intelligence, empathy, rituals. So you help ground our practice. So I'm just validating and appreciating. So thank you.
Because this is something, Allison, that, as I mentioned, when you do things, my friend Brian, that he's an expert in trauma recovery, expert. He's that medical center, Google it, WakeMed is big, is huge, and they study a lot this. He when he began to hear about what we did, he was surprised because he said, "You did things that we teach here, but I didn't know. I was not an expert. I was doing because I was surviving." So these are things that you can mirror in your practice, because these are the things that people have to do. For example, during my captivity, as I mentioned, I was with a political prisoner. That empathy was key in a relation, because we had these guards. If you see these guards, see their faces. They use this mask, okay? And when they didn't have the mask, we were not allowed to see them in the face. We need to have a lot of empathy to deal with these guys.
Yeah.
So this is something that for us, having empathy was literally the only way we could survive.
Yes.
So for us was a survival trauma.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Allison. And then I see Carolyn, if you want to come off mute, but you made a comment around aligning with faith as a pillar. And you had a question about that. So I wonder if you want to just.
Sure, Jen. Yes, I absolutely love this this session today. So Jose, thank you so much for sharing your experience and insight with us too. Just curious about the spiritual alignment you were speaking of too, and that's something I definitely want to focus more in 2026. Just starting out, is there any recommendations you have to begin more of that spiritual journey in my life and my family's life too?
Well, let me tell you something. See my story. I come from a Catholic country. Venezuela is very Catholic, and I come from a Catholic family. But I was not a guy connected with God. I was a guy that was so focused in my career that literally I had abandoned God. But I don't have no shame saying it. That was my story. When this happened to me, one of my guys, he was really, really very Christian. I remember the one day, see how things unfold. One day, at that time, we were not allowed to have books, okay? So he could smuggle a small Bible, a pocket Bible. And he told us if we wanted to begin to read the Bible with him. So we, in the middle of the night, with a candle, because there was cameras, we begin to read the Bible. And when we begin to read the Bible, for me, I'll be honest, for me was a discovery, begin to hear those passages like the book of Job or the journey of Paul, or all those things that I begin to relate so much, or reading the Psalms. And it began to give me, I begin to feel that peace inside me. And we begin to do that every night. And one day, they opened the door, and it was a guard, one of these evil guys. And they saw us reading the Bible, and we thought that guy was going to punish us. So the guy told us, no, continue reading the Bible. No problem. Read the Bible. And the day after, the guy brought us a full-size Bible. And he asked that we pray for him. That guy needed prayers. And we began to pray. And let me tell you, that changed everything,
Mm.
everything. So the faith will change your life. So when you're in your business, that the spiritual side has to be there. You cannot be successful completely if you don't are connected to your spirituality. So my recommendation is, if you're going to that situation, take a look at that, because that's what happened to me.
Carolyn, anything you want to add or?
No,
Yeah.
that was very helpful though, just to hear his perspective. So thanks, Jen.
Great, you're welcome. And it looks like Annette, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correct, put a link to a book that she's written around this topic. So the link is in the chat if that's a topic you're interested in. Other questions people have for Jose, other comments, things that are resonating with you, feel free to either raise your hand or just unmute and go
By the
for
way,
it.
I'm going to put the link of my book in the chat too. So the person are interested, let me go here.
Thank you.
Let me put it here. My book, I had the blessing that it won the International Book Award as the best true memoir, and has 5 times Amazon bestseller. Is in English, in Spanish. It's going to be translated to Italian and German. Is translated in Bengali, and well, yeah. So I the link there.
That's
Because
great.
the way I decided to tell my story, as I mentioned, is based on those letters that I could write with my wife. But I didn't want to tell the story of, oh, I went through this, and because the story is the story. For me, the importance of the book was telling how you can go to a dramatic situation in your life, and what is the takeaway that you got to there. So, and this is something that, because it's not only what you went in your life, is what you did with that in your life. And for example, in my case, many people sometimes ask me, if I begin to talk, it didn't hurt me. It didn't, revisiting those events. No, it helped me in my healing process. It really helped me in my healing process.
Yeah, and I think that, that's something that was resonating with me as you were talking, this idea that yes, we go through things, and if we just go through it and we're like, I think sometimes people think resilience means something bad happened to you and you just pick yourself up and move on. It's really actually, it's more than that. It's not, and I come from a generation of my mom was like, something bad happens, just pick yourself up by your bootstraps and keep on going. She didn't want me to like dig into like the stuff that happened around it. And I think that's what's really inspiring about what you're talking about, that it's you went through something and it's traumatic, and what can you learn from it and what can you share with the world from that
Because for me,
experience.
the concept of the resilience is not falling and bouncing back. It's
Mhm.
falling, bouncing back, but better, and
Yeah.
learning from the failure. And don't look at failure as a failure, looking as an opportunity. So when you
Mhm.
take a look at that way is where you do better. So because
Mhm.
maybe you can have a business and it breaks, you got broken. But okay, you decide, okay, let's restart, but let me go back and see what I did wrong. So there's where the resilience really is really useful, when it's not only move on, it's moving on, learning from what went wrong, and doing better, and doing better.
Mhm. Mhm. So when I start a new notebook, I always put like stickers on them. And I just started my new 2026 notebook. And my sticker is like a picture of like an eraser, like a pencil eraser. And it says mistakes are how we learn. So
Yeah,
that
yeah,
connects.
yeah.
Yeah, other questions, thoughts that people have, things that are resonating, even just a comment. Love to hear it.
I'd love to just add my comments. First, my appreciation for the story that you shared and really just the lessons learned. It started making me think about forgiveness, in terms of how does that play into your perspective? How do you use it and how
Very, very important, very important, very key, very key. Yeah, so important what you said. Sorry, I missed that part. I should have talking about that. Forgiveness is so key. Yesterday, I did an interview that somebody asked me that what was my feeling looking Maduro now in the situation. And let me tell you, when the situation began to unfold in Venezuela, they begin attacking into capturing him. Somebody called me because I have friends in Venezuela. Somebody called me and said, Jose, are you looking what is happening in Venezuela? No, I was 1 a.m. in the morning. No, turn on the TV. And I turned on the TV, and 3 hours after, I saw that tweet that Donald Trump said that he captured Maduro. And then when I see the image, I was like in shock because during these years, I have forgiven. I didn't have nothing in my heart. I don't stay one day thinking on that. But when I saw that guy, I said, this is divine justice. This is divine justice. So forgiveness doesn't mean that you're going to forget, but you're going to take that from your heart. Because when you don't forgive, it's what Nelson Mandela said. If you don't forgive, you're going to be prisoner forever. So when I came back, I decided that move on that. I forgive, because when you're forgiving the other, you're forgiving yourself. So I know this is difficult, but believe me, you can do it. You can do it.
Thanks, Jen. That was a great question.
Yeah, thank you.
Other thoughts, comments, questions?
It's the same as gratitude. I mentioned it, but I'm gonna reinforce. The practice of the gratitude is, if you don't do it, I'm gonna recommend 2 things that you have to do every day. Express gratitude and do morning prayers, no matter what religion you profess. Do morning prayers. Today, I pray at 3 p.m., 3 a.m. in the morning. I wake up at 3 a.m. to pray. And this is the way I believe that I can connect with God. And believe me, that changed your day, because you're setting the tone of your day. When you express the gratitude and you pray, you're setting the tone of what's going to be your day and your life. So it's a game changer, I can tell you.
Hey, Jen, I've got a question.
Sure,
Really,
go for it.
really love the conversation around that forgiveness and the gratitude. So thanks for sharing that. I'm going to switch gears just a little bit, though, and ask, I was in some sessions talking about building confidence because, many of us are kind of new to coaching, and we might have some imposter syndrome and things like that. So the idea is, how do you kind of build that confidence? And I hadn't thought too much about resilience. Can you just sort of share, how are the confidence and resilience, are they similar, different?
No, are connected. I are totally correlated. Yeah. Because the confidence is going to drive you to the resilience, because confidence is believing in yourself, and when you believe in yourself, you have the strength that, if no matter what you're going through, you have the strength that you're going to make it, because that's what the confidence is. So confidence, resilience, and faith, the 3 things are connected, because the faith is going to be the opposite of the fear. So when you have faith, there's no fear. And when you're confident, you're going to do whatever you have to do, because here the important is not look what you're going through today. Maybe you're here beginning your practice, and have been struggling in your practices. Don't see you like you are today. See you like you're the best coach of the world. Massive coaching. Or if you're a speaker, see you in stage of thousands of people. Believe it, see it, visualize it. And that will change. Believe me, that will change.
That's your carry-on bag, Brian. You need
That's the
your
carry-on.
carry-on.
I can tell you, for me, the carry-on, I have the carry-on here, by the way. I have it here. And the carry-on became my anchor. I stayed 1 year at some point because that last year, because the negotiations were going on, I was having daily calls. I stayed all the day talking to my wife, and I was coaching her. I started coaching her because she was depressed, and I was so energized to say, no, no, don't get depressed. I'm gonna go, because that changed my mindset.
Mm. Something as you were, go ahead. Did someone else just go?
Yeah, sorry, this
Oh
is
yeah, go ahead,
Gina.
Gina.
Thank you.
Hi, Gina.
Good morning. I just wanted to add to the resilience conversation a little bit, because throughout all of this, what was coming to mind for me in terms of its connection to confidence, resilience is leaning on the strengths that you've built to get yourself or others even through a tough situation and then grow in the process. So it's just as much something you do or you have to do as it is something you have. And I think
Mm-hmm.
in a coaching situation, whether it's self-coaching, which I think I'm going to be doing a lot of after this conversation, but in coaching others, we were talking earlier about what are the questions you would ask to determine where they are from a self-efficacy standpoint, but asking those questions to find out what their level of confidence is in a particular situation to get themselves through or to find the resources that they have available to them. But truly it's relying on those strengths that you have, those things that you're capable of, and reminding yourself of that, and then using that to get through this situation. And then, even as some of the chat comments are saying, being better afterward, growing through the process. Sometimes we don't see that till much later on, but that's all part of resilience. Resilience is an ongoing process.
Yeah, you have to build it.
perspective.
Yeah, you have to build it.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that I don't cannot stress more is that don't do things alone, because that unfortunately, when you're going through a situation in your business or in your life, that people isolate and try to solve it alone. That is insane, the doing thing alone. In my particular case, I could not be here if I didn't have the support of my family. My son, he moved to Colombia, stayed 4 years sending me food. 4 years. So he put literally his life in pause, took a part-time job. He has his family, my grandsons, and he put his life in pause to make me survive. That's what my family did for me. So I could not be here if I didn't have my family. And this is what's happening in the life and in the business, that people isolate themselves and want to solve the problem alone. Don't do that. Don't do that.
You know what, Jose? I think that's a perfect, unless there's any other burning questions, because I know everyone probably has lots of things to do. It's a perfect place to end, because I think that's what this group for me is about, right? We're coaches. None of this work is solo. That we all have reserves within ourselves, but we have a community of people to support us. So for those of you that are new, for those of you that have been here for a while, this is why we get together once a month, sometimes on our computers, sometimes in person, because we are better, and we can find solutions and get the support we need from those around us. So thank you again so much, Jose, for being here with us. Thank you for everyone for your questions, your thoughts. And I'm going to turn it back over to Brian. I think we stopped the recording, and Brian